Well, just first of all, tell us why is your visit in Mexico? What are you announcing? What are you doing here?
Well, what am I doing here? Well, for me, I'm not necessarily here to make a particular announcement,
Okay.
but I'm responsible for the server and tools business at Microsoft. Server and tools business at Microsoft represents products like Windows Server, System Center, and also SQL or public cloud services like Windows Azure. So it's a very wide range of product portfolios. Both servers people run in their data center, as well as public cloud services that we offer ourselves. And both of these businesses are doing very, very well. And I'm about just over a year into my role. I had previously been responsible for Office and Office 365 businesses. And so about a year into the role, the business is doing great. And I'm basically visiting many of our field offices to get understanding from local customers and partners and see how we can accelerate business growth further. We also have made very good strides in terms of our business growth in Mexico specifically. As an example, according to IDC research, we've just surpassed VMware as the leading hypervisors that are getting deployed into data centers. We've taken about 4 points of share and have now surpassed them. And so Mexico's now joined Chile and Peru and some of the other Latin American countries where we've already become the #1 virtualization vendor. But it's exciting to see Mexico join the group. And we're also, as a whole LATAM area, we're on the cusp of making LATAM one of the first areas, multi-country area, where we will be #1. And so that's some of the exciting, not necessarily an announcement, but an indication of our progress that it's probably worth talking about.
Okay, I don't know if you know something about our media. We are focused in contact centers, and that has to be with customer experience. So how is the cloud doing in contact centers for Microsoft?
I mean, in terms of contact centers, I actually don't necessarily have sort of implementations or cases that comes off the top of my head. But the cloud is a very horizontal thing. It applies every aspect of your IT, and it permeates. It comes into very different scenarios. It could be around storage. So you might not use computing resources in the cloud, but you might use it first as a place where you store lots and lots of data, because increasingly people have to deal with lots and lots of data. I know, for example, I was talking to customers running call centers that have regulatory requirement to record their calls and retain them for many years. That's a lot of data, and you don't necessarily want to buy very expensive proprietary SAN or equipment to host it all yourself. Particularly if it's not something you're going to use very often, you have to just save them for regulatory compliance reasons. In cloud, for example, provides great cost efficiency in having data stored very effectively and cheaply, and so that's just one example of how the cloud can start coming in to different areas of IT. I don't really have, particular case studies that says this is what was done in the data center, but I'm sure there are lots of these use cases that are happening around many customer deployment scenarios.
And what do you think about the customer experience? How is it possible to get an excellent customer experience?
As with most things in IT, I think it's very hard to be good planning. It is something. It's no matter how you say it, it is net new for the customer. It might be a simple thing. Can we turn this thing down?
Sorry.
Are you tired? So you have to really just make sure that you're planning for it, even if it's for something as trivial as just shifting the storage locations. There's many stakeholders involved Maybe you actually need to talk to your legal department to say, okay, what are the regulatory compliance needs? And one of the things we've gotten very good at doing as somebody that's very focused on serving enterprise customers is hosting workshops and things like that. Not just provide technology, but help customers with the change management of it. Because oftentimes technology is not the hardest part of the transition. Oftentimes it's the change management. People have to learn to do things differently or change their workflow. And we've worked through and have resources and experience in helping customers through some of those change management experiences. And I think that's very key. Not to just treat it as a technological change, but to really think of it as a change in the way you do business and your operations.
As you sell IT, how is the culture in the enterprise or the organization? How does it has to change with the changes of technology?
I don't know whether it has to change, but the change we are seeing though is that the tone of the discussions I now have with customers on the cloud is very different. I used to work on Office 65 before I worked on the server and tools business. And in 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a lot of the customer dialogues we would have were filled with concerns and fear. Why would I use the cloud? Is it I lose control? Is it secure enough? Does it meet all the regulatory compliance? There are lots of these sort of questions posed in essentially like an objection kind of a way. And now when I talk to customers, there's much more openness and also sort of a positive attitude to say, well, I might not use it for everything, but there's going to be places where it can help me. So let's go figure out how it can help me. What are the first use cases I should try? And so there's definitely kind of an attitudinal change as the industry matures, the offering matures, and I think also customers digest some of the evolutions in technologies more. They look forward to thinking about ways to use it. So I think that kind of a change happens all the time for any technological change, and we're just seeing the sort of we're going through the same maturity curve, I would say. I also think that we're seeing some of the customers that are successful in really taking advantage of the cloud be very, very connected to the business. The orientation around how do I help the business, how do I use the cloud to achieve business outcomes, and thinking more in that realm as opposed to, I have to control all of these because I'm a central IT. That is the sort of a change in, I think, attitudes that I see with customers that are really effective in leveraging the cloud.
And how is the cloud how are the organization adopting the cloud in Latin America?
Well, there are many ways customers are adopting it. Because again, cloud is such a horizontal technology, you can use it in many ways. In Latin America, one example would be like a BMW. So they wanted to launch a campaign that essentially that they wanted to launch on Facebook. That allows them to do all sorts of analysis on customers that they were engaging with on Facebook, do sentiment analysis and lots of those analytics associated with their customer engagements on Facebook, but actually do it in a way that's connected to their line of business systems, in this case, Dynamic CRM. So they actually built an Azure-based solution to launch their campaign so that they can actually engage with the customers on Facebook and actually have the analytics done in a way that's connected to the line of business system. Because the real power of social analytics comes not just when you're analyzing social analytics, but actually connecting it to business outcomes you're seeing in your line of business systems. And they're able to build systems like that using Azure. That's one example. Another one that comes to mind, Celestica, for example. They had a website that I think it was one of the natural disaster earthquake hit some of their infrastructure, and their website went down. But they used Azure to get it up and running very quickly. And cloud is a great way to make sure that you have business continuity and disaster recovery kind of scenarios, and that's a great use case for that. And we also have other customers like the SAP, is it the Mexican Tax Authority?
Oh, right. Okay. Oh yes, SAT. Yeah.
SAT.
Yeah.
Is right. They really wanted to simplify and streamline their invoicing and billing processes. I think they had a presidential mandate to come up with a solution very quickly, and so they used Windows Azure to build a solution, and that dramatically shortened their time to market to come to a solution, because cloud gives you this advantage of being able to develop and deploy applications without waiting to buy hardware and build whole infrastructure. It's already available for you. You focus on your application, deploy your app, and you're ready to go. And that's another example. So we're, the reason why and what technology they use in the cloud differs based on the customer, but there are very rich and varied examples of many customers starting to use the public cloud.
And what would you say are the key questions that an organization has to think about before going to cloud, to evaluate?
I think getting clear on what business outcome you're trying to achieve, I think, is the most important thing. Because oftentimes as you go through these IT projects, there's so many requirements and stakeholders, and there's so many meetings. Sometimes the core of what are you really trying to get done, and what is the most important thing, and what kind of things are you willing to trade off. Being really clear on that, I think, is very helpful. And also, like I said, it is not just a technology discussion, it is truly a business discussion with many stakeholders. So when you go on a project like this, making sure all the stakeholders are looped in and included from the beginning is very important. You don't want to have a IT project to consider using the cloud if the legal department comes in at the last minute and says you can't do this. So you would want the legal department to participate in your project early on, so you can really think about, okay, when you build your application, how do you build it in such a way that all the regulatory compliance needs are met? Cloud doesn't necessarily mean that any cloud implementation is bad or good. You have to really think about where you want your data. Maybe you actually have to build up your application in such a way that certain types of data never leave your premise, and you use the cloud for certain other aspects of your application. We have customers on Azure where they use it for commerce, and they build the app in such a way that credit card information isn't stored on Azure, because they really wanted to make sure that's stored on their premise in their systems. But they can have other parts of their application running on Azure and get the benefits. So being able to think about what are your requirements and architecting your solutions accordingly. But in order to do that, you have to be much more inclusive of different stakeholders than you were before. And it goes back to what I said. IT has to be really a great partner to the business and assemble all the right people and not just make it a pure IT project.
Well, what else do you want to tell us? I don't know if it's something else.
I think the important thing that I would love for your readers to know is the fact that Microsoft is uniquely positioned to provide a consistent platform for our customers. We're the only vendor really that's even attempting this notion of providing a consistent approach across what customers use on-premise and what customers use in the cloud. When you think about somebody like VMware or Oracle, they have historically very strong in serving on-premise data centers. But when they don't really have a public cloud story, how are you going to use their solution as people need to think about being able to utilize resources in the cloud? They are still very much stuck in serving traditional data centers on-premise. And when you then think about some of the new cloud-based competitors that we have, like Google or Amazon, they are very focused on, things will be great if you come to my cloud. But they don't seem to acknowledge the fact that almost all enterprise customers have invested a tremendous amount of energy and resources in building out on-premises data centers and all the assets that come with it. So they're just stuck in public cloud only. And Microsoft's approach is that we have big presence in both. We are a leading provider of operating systems and database services, so database servers for on-premise use, so customers can use that. But we also provide public cloud services in Windows Azure. And when we do it in such a way that has consistency across. So you as a customer can develop an application and only focus on the application and your business needs, and then be very flexible about how you want to deploy your application. And once you have an app, you can say, would I want to deploy it on my data center using Microsoft software, or would I want to use Microsoft services and deploy my apps on Windows Azure? Your app will just work in either case. And you can also maybe do a mix of both. You might have applications, some applications on-prem, some applications cloud, or even an application that works across. One application that spans on-premises and in the cloud. But we provide that level of consistency, and you can do things like manage it centrally. So, System Center is one of our products that will allow customers to manage all of their servers and applications, whether they're running on-premises or whether running in the cloud, from a single console. So if I'm an IT administrator, I can look at the single console and know what's going on for my IT assets, whether they're in my data center or in Microsoft data center. And that level of consistency and comprehensiveness is something that we think is very unique. Another thing that I guess I could talk about is how we are really making progress into getting into more mission critical workloads. So, I started actually as on Windows NT at Microsoft a long time ago, and we've really come a long way since then. And when you think about our growth, Windows Server Data Center, it's an addition of our Windows Server that is really designed for mission critical workloads, as well as SQL Premium, which is an addition of our SQL Server. That's again designed and optimized for mission critical workloads. We're seeing just a tremendous amount of growth for those products, which tells me that more and more of our products are getting used beyond just a departmental use, but more into mission critical workloads by our customers. And that's driving both of our revenue growth and also our share gains versus our competition. And we feel quite good about the progress we're making.
And what do you think about the Latin American market?
It continues to be a very strong growth market for us, and one that we continue to invest in. And it's kind of we're I think on a very good virtual cycle where we see a high growth market, we invest in the market, and we see results like Mexico now becoming a leader in virtualization in the local market, LATAM becoming likely to be the first to be a multi-country area that becomes a leader in virtualization. So we're seeing growth, we invest, and we get good results. We're quite bullish in what we're doing here.
Well, that's all for me. Thank you.